Hello everyone, I am Deepjoy Katwal and I teach in the Department of English at Salesian College, Sonada. I welcome you all to Radio Salation's introductory radio lecture on Jonathan Swift's Gulliver's Travels. Book 3 is entitled A Voyage to Laputa, Balnibarbi, Lagnac, Glubbdubdrib and Japan. And compared to other books, Book 3 is a little more complicated in the sense that it talks about various things and various islands compared to just one island in other books. So as we find in other books, Gulliver has stayed home for a few months and now he's getting restless. So he embarks on another voyage, and as usual, as fate would have it, he ends up in this strange place where whole islands are floating. So he finds out that the island is called Laputa, or the Flying Island, and he immediately finds out that the inhabitants of the island are very distracted people and they have very little attention span, and their interests are few. So their main concern is only mathematics and music. So Gulliver starts observing the people of Laputa. Their clothes do not fit their body and are decorated with astrological symbols and musical figures, and they spend their whole time listening to the music of the spears, and they believe in astrology and constantly worry that the sun will go out and they will have hard time living. And the Laputan houses are also built with inaccurate angles, so they are very funny to look at, and the people are so engrossed, especially the men are so engrossed in their intellectual activities that they don't care that their women are having adulterous relationship with other people or people from the other islands. So through Gulliver, Swift here is making fun of the rationalistic philosophers and scientists and essentially the men of reason. Swift believed that reason alone was not enough for people to live a meaningful life, and reason enough was not able to find out or to discover the meaning of life or the mysteries of this universe. Moreover, he is also making fun of these people who seems to be so smart in their intellectual life, but they are utterly incompetent in practical affairs in their day-to-day lives, and they cannot they cannot even respond to people when they are addressing them. So they have kept servants who are called flappers, whose sole job is to flap whenever their masters are called or by somebody else. And the floating island which is below the island of Laputa is that of the island of Balnibarbi. And the king of Laputa, through using his scientific community, prevents the island which is below from getting enough sunlight and rain. So in a way, their life or their livelihood is dependent on the mercy of the people or the king of Laputa. So here Swift is making reference of the relationship between England and Ireland. So in a way he was trying to satirize and criticize the King of England by saying that the people of Ireland have to live at the mercy of the King of England. And if the King of England decides to cut away the economic package, the lives of the Irish people would be in so much trouble. So theoretically, the King of England could actually destroy Ireland. So this reference is to that. But when he visits the island of Balnibarbi, he is equally detested by the way of life of these people. So he finds out that certain people visited the island of Laputa, and now they are completely trying to copy them, and as a result the whole island has become barren and nothing grows. So he is making fun of the Irish people who try to be just like English men, right? So he is not sparing anyone in his book. There is only one estate in Balnibarbi, the estate of Mundi, who follow the ancient technique of tilling the land, and it is the only place which is green, and crops are grown in good quantity and quality over there. So Swift, through Gulliver, is trying to make fun of the scientific community, and in a way telling them that instead of being very scientific about how to grow crops and what to do and what not to do in every sphere of life, it would be better if we listen to the ancient wisdom that has been passed down from generation to generation in certain matters. It is not advisable to follow scientific projections and scientific theories in every sphere of life. So you can see that Swift is attacking the over dependence on human reason. Similarly, Swift also through Gulliver makes fun of the political scientists who come up with strange theories of what is the right way to govern, and he makes fun of the historians because he thinks that most of history or most of what has been passed down as history has been written by people who were in power. As a result, it is an account of people who were able to write history or who were able to create history. So it is only half truth. So in the island of Glubbdubdrib, he meets the sorceress who is able to bring dead back, and he is able to talk with so many famous historical personages such as Aristotle, Caesar, Brutus, Homer, Descartes, and so many others. And just like history, he criticizes philosophy and other humanities subjects by saying that they do not teach us anything useful. At least the ancient philosophy and ancient knowledge system taught people what to do and what not to do. So they made people moral, but not the modern way of learning and the modern way of teaching. So he is making fun of everything, right and left. First, the scientific community, the philosophers and teachers of other humanities subjects, and religious teachers, politicians. In the island of Lugnag, he makes fun of excessive reverence towards king and royal people. So this may not be as relevant to us as it was to the people who read his book during the 18th century, but still we can find that people are excessively subservient towards politicians even today, right? People who are in power. So for instance, in the island, the king demands that who wants an audience with him or who wants to meet him have to advance on their hands and knees and lick the floor. So to get the favor of the king or to get the favor of a person who is in charge or who has the power, people are willing to do anything. And when somebody falls out of favor, what does the king do? He sprinkles some poison onto the floor and people have to lick it and die. The last book or the last part of Gulliver's travel is entitled A Voyage to the Country of the Houyhnhnms. So Gulliver, again, after he has spent some time in his home, is offered a position as a captain in one of the merchant ships, and he accepts the offer and he sets out on the voyage. And because some of the crew members fall sick, he has to hire people from the market, and he does not know all of them personally, but as it turns out, most of the people he hired belong to this crew of pirates. So they rise up in revolt against him, and he is captured by them on the route, and he ends up on this island where the horses are like people and people are like animals or beasts. So the people are called Yahoos and the horses are called Houyhnhnms, and the horses are the masters there. So it is the land of Houyhnhnms or the country of the Houyhnhnms. So people are running around naked. They have unkempt hair. They do not wear clothes, and they are just like wild beasts. And Gulliver is so surprised to see them. And they start attacking him, but fortunately he's saved by a horse. So the horse takes him home, and he finds out later that the horses are the rulers or the dominant species in that island. So all the three books that we have discussed so far was a preparation for this last one, where Gulliver does not hold back anything in order to criticize human beings in general. How despicable human beings are essentially in the core. For instance, Gulliver describes the Yahoos as deformed. Their heads and breasts were covered with thick hair, but the rest of their bodies were bare. They had no tails and often stood on their hind feet. And he says, I never beheld in all my travels so disagreeable an animal. So now people have transformed into this despicable creature, a beast. And not just their outer appearance, their behavior is also equally disgusting. And the ugliness of Yahoos is contrasted with the goodness of Houyhnhnms. So the horses are clean and they're very sweet smelling. Their diet is good and vegetarian, and their habits constitute the temperance that the 18th century people, including Swift, thought characterized a reasonable man, a good man, right, or good people. Gulliver falls in love with the horses here because they are so gentle, they are so moral, that they do not even have the conception of lying. So, for instance, when Gulliver tells the horses that people lie, and how he ended up in their island when people or the crew that he hired mutinied against him, betrayed him, they are not able to understand, because they don't have the concept of lying in their language, because nobody lies.